I want to make this video as short and sweet as possible, but I just want to show a very basic function that would probably help you if you're ever trying to do any sort of vertical layout and you know dimensions, like on a wall, on a facade, whatever it might be. So I created this job here called vertical layout. I gave it a number 2, and I'm going to go ahead and say check, and you're going to see that I have nothing in here. It's a completely blank file. And like again, I'm just going to keep this very basic. I'm going to do my stationing. And just to be as clear as possible on how I want you to imagine this, imagine you need to lay out something on a facade or a vertical structure, whether that be anchor points, window spots, whatever it might be. You know the dimensions of everything from a specific spot on that wall, and you know the differences in heights between everything, as well as how everything's spaced. I have a drywall in front of me. I'm going to mock this on a drywall. And I'm going to set my line at the top of this drywall and kind of pull down from that drywall to specific points and measure them so you can kind of see what it's doing. But if you go in with that kind of imagination, that understanding, I think that this video will help you quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to station via this building line, and you'll see how all of this works. And so I'm going to station via building line, and right now I'm looking at the wall, and it's on the left side of the wall. It's no big deal. So I'm going to say measure that one first point. And what I'm doing is I'm setting my 0, 0 of my job. So there's my 0, 0 on the left side of that wall. And you see it down here. Let me move it to the right side of the wall. I'm going to set it over there too. 1 second. Alright, I just moved my tool to the other side of the wall, and in the real world, this is also like the other side of your facade or your face of wall that you're trying to lay out on. And I'm going to measure it. Okay, so what you got to think about, I'm going to to be brief, I'm going to completely disregard this line shift, and most people do. So I'm going to just close that for a second. So just to help you understand what I'm doing here, you have a BL1, which is my 0, 0. And a BL2. Now it looks like it's going from 0 to north, and that's just because that's how the tool recognizes it. This is your L going 0 to north. Now, in reality, it's actually what I'm looking at. It's actually my wall. This is the left side of my wall. This is the right side of my wall. And this is my 0, 0 of the wall, and I'm going to say check. And it tells me how far down I went from my first point to the second. Now what's critical here is that I need to make sure that I specify where I want to start my benchmark for my height, and that's done by this button right here, this little height button. So I'm going to just set my manual height. Let me call it 0 just to keep it easy. And I'm going to be pulling down, so I'm going to be pulling negative height values for my situation because I'm looking at the top of a wall. So I'm going to set my manual height. This is highlighted. I know you can't see that. I'm going to set it to 0. I'm going to say measure. So the point I'm looking at right now on the wall, I'm going to imagine this is where you know you're going to be pulling down from. It's your benchmark height. I'm going to say check. So what you got to think about is your BL1 is your benchmark 0, 0 that you're going to be pulling all your dimensions from. And then your benchmark height you made is your 0 that you're going to be pulling all your benchmark heights from. Now this H here shows you where my tool is in relation to that point. So if that point that I measured was 0, my unit is about 2 feet below it. Alright, so I'm going to say check. And now I'm going to go ahead and go to my function. So let me change my view here so you can get an idea of what this is doing. So here's my station. I measured boom to BL1, and then I measured boom to BL2. Now, technically, if I do a Kogo of these two, you see how it's not exactly a straight line. It's on a slight slope, right? It should be on a slight slope. I don't think they're exactly the same height, but it's fine. But even if this is on a slope of some sort, the tool would be able to I'm just showing you that this is recognizing, the tool's recognizing this is your 0, 0. Right, so if I pull this out, you see how that's BL1. Oh yeah, here's a good example. BL1 is a 0 north, 0 east. Now the height's saying -9/16. That's okay. my BL2 is down the road, but BL2 doesn't matter. I don't care how far down the line I went. What I do care about is, though, that the BL2 I also use as my benchmark height. And if you can see, that's why the height over here is 0. So my BL1, I measured a little bit underneath it, but regardless, I'm just showing you how this is all set up. So what I'm going to do now is, I know this is my 0, 0 on my line. I'm going to go to line layout. I'm going to open this up. Now I'm going to completely disregard anything on this create tab. I'm not going to shift my line at all. I'll go through that in another video. For this, I'm going to keep it as simple as I can. I'm going to go to measure, and now what I can do is I can type in here. Let me set my height to 0 again. I can type now in this little box here. I can say I want the tool. It's already spinning on me because it's trying to go to where it says. I can tell the tool to say, okay, I want the tool, I want the laser to guide me to 3 feet down my wall. Now my O is going to stay the same. My offset is representing the wall itself. I obviously want it to stay on the wall, so I'm going to keep that 0. And let's say I want to go 3 feet down the line, and then I also want to go, let's say I want to go down 1 foot. I'm going to say enter. Okay, I'm going to let my tool think for a second. And I'm going to press measure. I'm going to save this point. And remember, I went 3 feet down the line and I went 1 foot south of my benchmark. I'm going to say check. My point staked. Now let me show you what it did. Okay, so I have my station, BL1, BL2, MP1. If I open this up, MP1 is at a height of -1. It's basically right out there on the wall. The wall might be warped a slight bit, but it's 3 feet down my line. And just to give you an example of this, let me go back to my missing line. Okay, BL2 is my benchmark. If I open this up, you'll see BL2 to MP1, the height differential is 1 foot. And that's what I want, 1 foot down from my benchmark. And if you notice from my BL1, which is my 0, 0 for my dimensions, horizontally, they're 3 feet separated. Now they have a slope because it's lower, but horizontally they're 3 feet separated. And that's what I just measured. So what I'm showing you here is that I can basically come back into line layout. I can keep measuring. We go to 5 feet down the line, and then we go 1 foot above the line. I'm going to let it spin there. I'll measure that. I'll show you that, and then I'm going to show you one more thing. Okay, now that it's set, I'm going to measure it. Okay, it's giving me my coordinates of where it measured it up here. I'm going to say check. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, BL1 over here, and then to the right, BL2, and then right there is my MP2. And just to kind of show you, BL1 to MP2 is basically a horizontal distance of 5 feet. I was the 16th off when I made the measurement. And then MP2 to BL2, which is my benchmark height. Let me zoom out. Height differential of exactly 1 foot. This is 1 foot higher than this. The reason it's negative because I went from here down, which is giving me the -1 foot. So I hope this is making sense. I want to show you one more thing. Let me go to draw. It's fine. Back to line layout. So if here I am back in line layout, you'll notice that on this measure option you have 2 things. Number one, you can tap this point to line, and all point to line does is it lets you move the laser wherever you want, and it's going to automatically just populate these numbers in here of what you're looking at. Okay, so let me move the laser. I'm going to just move it randomly. 1 second. Okay, I just moved it to a random spot on the wall, and you can see that it's now populating exactly where it is. You can see my wall is a little bit warped where it's looking at. No big deal. It's drywall. And that I went down 2 feet from my almost 3 feet from my benchmark, and I went 15 feet away from my 0, 0. So last thing I want to show you is at the bottom here, you have the option of using absolute height. or relative height. So let me uncheck. Let me go to. Let me move it to another location to give you a better understanding of this. Okay. So I moved my line a little bit over, my point a little bit over, and what this is, just so you understand, is when I have absolute height checked, it's giving me all my measurements of height based off the actual benchmark that I measured earlier, my benchmark height. But if I uncheck this, it's keeping it relative to the actual slope of the line. So if I have a really heavy slope, my relative height and my absolute height are going to be significantly different. I don't want to make this confusing, but I'm just saying that if you're doing this the way that I would do it, I would keep absolute height checked so that all my height values are in relation to the actual benchmark height that I measured, rather than the slope of the line that I might have been off on. And to help you understand this a little bit more clearly, I drew a little diagram to the left there. The blue line represents a slope. If my benchmark height at the bottom on the left side is 0, relative height would still be 0 if I was directly on the line at the 5 feet high mark. Let's say there's a 10-foot differential between the 2 points. I'd be at 0 feet relatively in the middle, and I'd be at 5 foot high on the absolute at that point. That's how they differentiate. Hope that helps. Please feel free to ask questions in the comments. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.